Welcome to Crushed Husband. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. My name is Caleb Rowe. I'm 42 years old, and I run a custom motorcycle shop called Rowe Cycles. It's been my life for the past 15 years. I built it from the ground up, starting with just a tiny garage in the back of my dad's old house. Now, it's a full-fledged business, attracting motorcycle enthusiasts from all over. Every day I pour myself into my work, designing, welding, fixing, and modifying bikes for customers. I don't mind the sweat, the late nights, or the constant hum of machines in the background. It's what I love. But lately, I've been finding it harder to ignore the things that are slipping through the cracks at home. My longtime friend and right-hand man, Mick Dalton, often works with me at the shop. Mick's been with me from the beginning, and he knows me better than anyone. He's a straightforward guy, no nonsense. And lately, I've noticed him giving me sidelong glances whenever I walk into the shop, like he's waiting for me to say something. "What's going on at home, Caleb?" he asked me one day, leaning against the workbench while I worked on a new engine. I glanced up at him, wiping my hands on a rag, but I could already tell where this was going. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "You've been different lately. You don't talk about Elaine, and I haven't seen Hannah in a while." Mick raised an eyebrow, not letting me off the hook. "Everything all right?" I tightened my grip on the wrench and tried to focus on the engine in front of me, but the truth is I didn't have an answer. "Yeah, everything's fine," I muttered. "Just busy with the shop, you know?" Mick didn't buy it. "You're a terrible liar, man." I stopped working for a second and wiped the sweat off my brow. I don't know, Mick. Things at home aren't exactly what they used to be." He didn't say anything, just nodded like he understood, but he didn't push. Mick's been through his own rough patches with his ex-wife, so I know he gets it. But there was something about talking about Elaine that made me uneasy. Elaine and I had been married for nearly 16 years. We were young when we got together, and for the most part, we grew up together. But over the past couple of years, something had shifted. It wasn't one big blow-up or fight. It was more like a slow fade, like we were both slowly drifting apart without realizing it. I'd always been the workaholic. Elaine used to be okay with that. But now I could feel the tension in the house. She'd get upset when I came home late, and I could tell she wasn't happy, even when we were having dinner. That evening, I didn't get home until after dark, the motorcycle shop's lights still flickering in my mind. I parked in the driveway, expecting the house to be quiet. When I stepped inside, though, I was surprised to see Hannah sitting on the couch, her school bag slung over her shoulder. "Dad," she said, glancing up at me. "You're late." I smiled at her. "Yeah, just finishing up some work. You know how it is." She didn't smile back. Instead, she hesitated, biting her lip like she was deciding whether or not to say something. I don't know, Dad," she started, her voice a little shaky. "Mom's been weird lately. Like, she tells me she's going to meetings or out for work, but I think she's lying." I frowned, my heart dropping a little. "What do you mean?" Hannah shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. "Well, she said she was at that charity event last weekend, but when I looked on social media, I saw she was at some hotel with another man. I don't know, Dad. It just feels like she's been disappearing a lot." The air in the room thickened, and I tried to suppress the sinking feeling in my stomach. My daughter was right. Elaine had been distant lately, and I had been too busy to notice. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hannah, you're probably just overthinking things. She's busy, and sometimes adults need their space. Don't worry about it." But as the words left my mouth, I wasn't sure I believed them. Elaine hadn't been acting like herself. I knew something was off, but I didn't want to admit it. Hannah gave me a long, searching look, like she could see right through me. Then she stood up, grabbing her bag and slinging it over her shoulder. "I'm just saying, Dad. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I know, kiddo, thanks." As she walked out of the room, I couldn't help but feel like a complete failure. How had I not seen the cracks in my own marriage? And how was I supposed to fix it now? I wasn't sure, but the doubt was starting to fester inside me. I had to figure it out, for Hannah's sake, for Elaine's sake, and for my own. But I didn't know if I could face whatever truth was waiting for me at home. It was the next morning when my phone rang while I was deep in the grind of the shop. Mick and I were in the back, fixing up a custom chopper, when my phone buzzed on the workbench. I glanced at the screen and saw the name Dana Reese. My heart skipped a beat. Dana was the mother of Hannah's best friend, Grace. We'd never really been close, but over the years, we'd exchanged pleasantries at school events. I didn't expect a call from her. "Hey, Dana," I answered, wiping grease off my hands. "What's up?" There was a slight tremor in her voice when she spoke, something I couldn't quite place. "Caleb, I need to talk to you about something. Something I don't think you know about." My stomach tightened. The last time I'd heard that tone, it was about something bad. "What is it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. I didn't like where this was going. "Look, I don't know how to say this, but I saw Elaine. I saw her last night at a motel. With another man." I froze, the words crashing over me like a bucket of ice water. My grip on the phone tightened, and my heartbeat quickened. "What?" I said, my voice coming out almost a whisper. "I don't know how else to say it," Dana continued, "but I thought you should know. I don't know what's going on, Caleb, but it didn't look like a business meeting. She was there for a while, and I saw them leave together. They were laughing. I don't know. It just didn't seem right." I couldn't process the information at first. My mind went blank, trying to make sense of it all. Elaine at a motel with another man? The words wouldn't fit together. My mind kept replaying the last few weeks, the odd nights when Elaine was working late or out at events. And I couldn't help but wonder if she had been seeing this guy all along. "Are you sure?" I asked, even though I knew the answer. Dana paused for a second. "I wish I wasn't, but I saw them. I don't know what you'll do with this, but I thought you should know. I'm sorry, Caleb." I swallowed hard, trying to push down the lump in my throat. "Thanks for telling me, Dana. I appreciate it." We said our goodbyes, but the conversation didn't end there. The silence afterward was suffocating. I could still hear Dana's words ringing in my ears, and I felt my stomach knotting tighter with every second. Was this really happening? Was my wife having an affair? I stood there in the back of the shop, staring at the motorcycle parts around me. I should have been focused, but my mind kept spiraling. I could feel the cold sting of betrayal, even though I didn't have all the details. But a motel? The secrecy? It didn't look good. It didn't feel good. Mick looked up from the engine he was working on, noticing the change in my expression. "You good, Caleb?" he asked, wiping his hands on his rag. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I just stared at him for a moment, my mind racing. "Mick," Dana called. "She saw Elaine with another man at a motel last night." Mick's face hardened. He set down his tools and gave me a serious look. "What?" he said quietly, not quite believing it. "I don't know what to think," I muttered, running my hand through my hair. "I mean, it could be nothing, right? Maybe it was business, or maybe... I don't know." "Caleb," Mick said slowly, stepping toward me. "You know you can't ignore this. I'm sorry, man, but this isn't just going to go away." I knew he was right. Mick always called it like he saw it, and I hated to admit it, but he was right. I couldn't ignore this. I couldn't sweep it under the rug like I had been doing with the tension at home. Something was clearly wrong, and I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. I paced for a moment, trying to gather my thoughts. What do I do, Mick? Should I confront her? Should I just ask her straight up? Mick crossed his arms, his jaw tight. "I don't know, man, but you need to figure out what's going on. The longer you let this go, the worse it's going to get. You've been dodging things for too long." His words hit home. I had been dodging. I had been so caught up in the shop, in everything else, that I hadn't seen the signs. Or worse, maybe I had and just didn't want to face them. I felt like I was walking around in a fog. How long had Elaine been seeing this man? Was this just a one-time thing? Or had she been lying to me for months? My mind raced with 1,000 possibilities, none of which were good. After a few moments, Mick spoke again. "Look, Caleb, whatever you decide, you gotta be sure. But don't let it fester. If she's doing something behind your back, you deserve to know." I nodded, my hands clenching into fists. I didn't want to believe it, but part of me already knew. Deep down, I knew what I had to do. That night, Elaine came home late, just like always. She walked in through the front door with that same smile, the one she put on when she was trying to convince me everything was fine. I could feel my pulse quickening. This was it. I had to ask her. I had to face the truth, no matter how ugly it was. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I looked at her. "We need to talk." Elaine froze for a moment, her eyes darting around the room like she was trying to gauge my mood. What's wrong? Where were you last night? I asked, my voice low but firm. I got a call today. Dana saw you with someone, a man, at a motel. Elaine's face went pale, and I could see the panic flash in her eyes. Caleb, it's not what you think. Elaine, just tell me the truth, I interrupted, my chest tightening. What's going on? She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. The silence between us stretched, thick and suffocating, and I knew, deep down, that whatever she was about to say, it would shatter everything. Elaine stood there in the doorway, the words hanging in the air between us like an invisible weight. The shock on her face was unmistakable, but I could see the guilt behind her eyes. She hadn't expected me to find out. Not like this. And I hated that it had come to this. For a moment, she just stared at me, frozen, trying to come up with something to say. Caleb, listen, I can explain, she said finally, her voice trembling. It's not what you think. Please, just let me explain. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't look at the woman I'd married, the woman I thought I knew, the one I'd built my life with. I was seeing her in a whole new light now, and it felt like I was staring at a stranger. I turned away, my hands gripping the edge of the kitchen counter as I tried to control the flood of emotions that threatened to overtake me. Explain what, Elaine? I asked, my voice sharp, though I could feel the cracks forming beneath it. That you've been seeing someone else? That you've been lying to me? To our daughter? How long has this been going on? She stepped forward, her hands raised, as if to calm me down. But I was beyond calm. I was beyond anything. The anger, the hurt, the confusion, it all mixed together in a simmering pot inside me. Caleb, please, just let me talk. She reached out, but I pulled back, instinctively recoiling from her touch. It was like an electric shock. Don't touch me, I snapped, my words sharper than I intended. You don't get to do that anymore. You don't get to ask me for anything after what you've done. Elaine flinched, her face going pale. You don't understand. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want this. I never wanted this. I turned to face her, my eyes burning with questions I didn't know how to ask. Then why, Elaine? Why the lies? Why keep this from me? From Hannah? Tears welled up in her eyes, and I could see the conflict in her. I could see her wanting to reach out, to make me understand, but there was nothing that could make this make sense. Not now, not anymore. I didn't know how to tell you, she whispered, looking down at the floor like she couldn't bear to meet my gaze. I didn't know how to face you. I was scared. And then one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was in too deep. In too deep, I repeated, almost choking on the words. You're telling me that you've been seeing someone else for how long, Elaine? How long? Her silence was the answer, and that silence cut deeper than anything she could have said. I could feel the blood rushing in my ears, my heart pounding in my chest, as the pieces began to fall into place. Every late night she claimed to be working late. Every phone call that was too hushed, too careful. The little things I had brushed off, the things I had let slide, all suddenly made sense. You've been seeing him for months, haven't you? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, but the fury was still there, simmering just beneath the surface. Was this guy really what you needed, Elaine? Was he worth this? I motioned to the wreckage between us, the wreckage of what had once been our life together. She looked at me, her eyes pleading now, but I couldn't hear her anymore. I couldn't hear the excuses or the justifications. I couldn't hear anything over the deafening roar in my head, the sound of everything I thought I knew, crashing to the ground. I'm sorry, she said, but her apology felt empty. I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I shook my head, unable to speak. The weight of the betrayal was too much. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers, to yell at her for what she had done to us. But I couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do anything except stand there, feeling like the ground beneath me had been ripped out, leaving me to fall. Who is he, Elaine? I finally managed to ask, my voice shaking despite my best efforts. Who is the guy? She hesitated, glancing toward the door like she was considering running, but she didn't. Instead, she sighed and whispered a name I would never forget. Ronan Pike. Ronan Pike. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Ronan Pike was someone I knew, someone I didn't trust. A local ex-con who ran a towing company. I'd heard rumors about him, bad rumors. And yet, Elaine was involved with him? This wasn't just an affair. This was a complete disregard for everything we had built together. I backed away from her, feeling a wave of nausea roll over me. "How long has this been going on?" I demanded, my voice hoarse. "How long have you been lying to me?" Elaine hesitated, tears running down her face. "Caleb, please. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to get out of it." "Get out of it?" I repeated, disbelief in my voice. "Elaine, you've been choosing this. You've been choosing him, and you've been lying to me, to our daughter, for months. And now you want me to feel sorry for you?" She shook her head, unable to meet my gaze. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered again. "But I was lost. I didn't know who I was anymore." It was like a knife twisting in my chest. She was trying to justify it all. She was trying to explain away her betrayal, her infidelity, as if it was something that could just be swept under the rug with a few soft words. "No, Elaine," I said, the words finally escaping through the fog of disbelief. "You chose this, and now we're paying for it. I'm paying for it, and so is Hannah." Her eyes flickered toward the door, and I saw the guilt in them. But I saw something else too. Fear. Fear that everything was falling apart. And it was. It had all fallen apart. "I don't know what you want from me," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I truly am." "Sorry?" I asked, stepping closer to her. "Sorry doesn't fix this, Elaine. Sorry doesn't take back the lies. Sorry doesn't give me back the trust I had in you. You've broken everything." I turned to leave. There was nothing left for me here. No more lies to hear, no more apologies to listen to. The damage had been done. And as much as I hated it, I couldn't stay. Not like this. Before I reached the door, I heard her voice again. "Caleb, don't leave me. Don't leave us." But I didn't stop. I couldn't. And as I walked out of the house, I knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The drive the next day was the longest and shortest I had ever experienced. Elaine had begged me to talk things through, to understand, to somehow forgive her. I knew she had her reasons, but none of them made sense to me anymore. How could she betray me like that? How could she look me in the eye for months, living a double life, and think I wouldn't eventually find out? But that day, she insisted on going to the retreat she'd promised weeks ago. It was a mountain getaway, something she'd planned as a way to reconnect. At least, that's what she said. The problem was, something didn't feel right. I couldn't shake the image of Ronan Pike's face, the name still echoing in my head. The man she'd been seeing was trouble, and I knew deep down that nothing about this retreat was ever going to be what she promised. I couldn't explain why, but I was sure of it. Elaine kept up the pretenses, though, acting like everything was fine. When she mentioned the car and suggested I let her drive it, my gut twisted. She'd never asked me to hand her the keys before, but I handed them to her anyway, wondering if I had completely lost my mind. I hadn't seen Elaine this insistent in months. She seemed too cheerful, almost too forced, the way she kept glancing at me as if she were waiting for something. Maybe she thought I hadn't noticed. Maybe she thought I wouldn't see through it. But I could feel it. Something was wrong. The drive was quiet. Elaine was too busy with the road to speak, but I could see her tension, her tight grip on the steering wheel. Her hair, once loose and messy, was neatly pinned back. She looked more composed than I had ever seen her in weeks, as if the weight of everything had suddenly disappeared. I stared out the window, my mind racing. She had lied about everything, about her whereabouts, about her actions, about the man she was seeing. And here I was, sitting next to her like some fool, trapped in a car I didn't want to be in, heading toward a place I didn't want to go. The road snaked around steep cliffs, the dense trees blocking out the sunlight. There was no turning back now. I needed to know the truth. As much as I hated it, I needed to face whatever was waiting at the end of the road. Elaine's voice broke through my thoughts. "Caleb, can we just enjoy this, please?" she said, her tone too sweet, too calculated. "I just want to have some peace. I know everything's been crazy, but we can fix it. I know we can." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My thoughts were clouded with images of her with Ronan, of her betrayal, of the slow unraveling of the life I thought I had. The car wound through sharp turns, and I felt a sickening lurch in my stomach. Then, suddenly, the brakes screeched. I didn't see it coming. The car veered, swerving violently toward the edge of the cliff. I grabbed the dashboard, my heart leaping into my throat. "Elaine!" I shouted, panic rising in my chest. But she didn't answer. She gripped the wheel harder, her face going pale. "Caleb, I don't..." The car's wheels slipped again, this time more violently as the brakes failed completely. I felt a sickening jolt as the vehicle plunged down the slope. My military training kicked in immediately. I grabbed the steering wheel, trying to regain control. I twisted it, fighting to keep us from plummeting over the edge. The brakes were completely unresponsive, the pedal useless beneath my foot. My heart hammered in my chest as the car careened out of control, rocks flying up from the road beneath us. "Elaine!" I screamed again, my voice a mix of desperation and terror. "Get off the wheel! Let me drive!" But she was frozen, her knuckles white from holding on so tightly. She just stared ahead, her expression a mask of shock. I jerked the wheel, trying to correct the car's path. But it was too late. The car skidded toward the side of the road, the tires screeching against the gravel. Before I could react, everything went black. I woke up in a hospital room, my body bruised and battered, the smell of antiseptic heavy in the air. My head throbbed like a hammer was being pounded inside my skull. My body felt heavy, as if I were still in the car, still tumbling down that mountain. I opened my eyes, trying to focus on the white ceiling above me. The sterile light made me squint. My ears buzzed with the faint hum of machines, and I slowly became aware of the pain in my body, my shoulder, my ribs, and the sharp sting in my legs. Then a face appeared in my vision, a nurse, her expression concerned. "Mr. Rowe, you're awake. You're going to be all right. You've been in an accident." I tried to speak, but my throat felt raw, dry, and tight. I swallowed painfully. My head was pounding, but I had to ask. "Elaine," I croaked, my voice barely audible. The nurse's face shifted, a flicker of hesitation crossing her features. "She's in surgery. She's badly injured, but she's alive." I closed my eyes again, breathing out a sigh of relief. But then something gnawed at me. The nagging feeling that this wasn't an accident. I had no evidence, no proof. But deep down, I knew. I was supposed to trust Elaine, to believe in her, to believe in us. But she had led me here. And now, all I could do was wait. Wait for answers, wait for the truth. Later that day, my daughter Hannah arrived, her face pale, her eyes wide with fear. She took my hand, and I could see the worry in her expression. "Dad, Mom, is she going to be okay?" she asked softly, the weight of the words nearly breaking me. I squeezed her hand, the words I wanted to say stuck in my throat. I didn't know if she'd be okay, and I didn't know if I could ever look at Elaine the same way again. "I don't know, sweetheart," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I really don't know." It had been 2 days since the crash, and the hospital room had become a grim place of uncertainty. The sterile, lifeless walls pressed in on me as I lay in the bed, barely able to move, my body aching from the crash. The nurse had told me Elaine was still in surgery, the doctors working tirelessly to repair the damage. They said she was in critical condition, but there was still hope. A part of me wanted to believe that, but another part, the part that could never unsee what happened, wasn't so sure. Hannah had been by my side constantly, barely leaving the hospital. She sat next to me now, her face pale and tight with worry. I could see the fear in her eyes, but there was something else too, a heaviness she was trying to hide. "Dad, can I talk to you?" she asked softly, her voice tinged with hesitation. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, trying to sit up straighter, wincing from the pain in my ribs. She reached over and gently took my hand, her grip tight as if she was afraid I might disappear. I overheard something," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't want to say anything before because I didn't want to upset you, but now, I think you need to know." My stomach clenched as I looked at her. "Hannah, what is it?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. She paused for a moment, her eyes dropping to the floor, and I could see the battle inside her. She wanted to say something, but it clearly hurt. When she looked back up, her expression was filled with pain. "I was in the living room last night when I heard Mom talking to someone on the phone," she began, her voice shaking with each word. "At first, I thought it was just a work call, but then I heard her talking about you, about how she'd been planning everything." I squeezed her hand, trying to piece the words together. "Planning? What do you mean?" Hannah's eyes welled up with tears, but she blinked them away quickly. "She was talking to someone, Dad. I think it was Ronan. She said that you were getting too close to the truth, and that she couldn't let you figure things out, that the car accident was supposed to be an accident." I froze, my entire body going cold. The room spun around me, and I had to fight to stay focused. My daughter, she was telling me that everything had been set in motion. This wasn't just a car accident. This was something much darker. "Hannah, are you sure?" I asked, my voice hoarse with disbelief. "Are you sure she said that?" Hannah nodded, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "I heard it, Dad. I heard everything. She said that after you were out of the way, everything would be hers. The money, the house, everything. And I think she was going to finish what she started, to make it look like an accident." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I couldn't process what she was saying. Elaine, my wife, the woman I had spent my life with, had been plotting this. She had been planning to kill me. My breath caught in my throat and my heart hammered in my chest. "Hannah, are you telling me you think she was trying to kill me?" I asked, barely able to say the words aloud. "I don't think, Dad," she said, her voice small and broken. "I know. I heard her. I heard her talking about it. And the car, the brakes. I know she did it. She tampered with them. I saw her messing with them the night before. I didn't know what to think at first, but now I know." The world around me seemed to stop. It was like everything had come crashing down all at once, and I couldn't breathe. My body shook, a cold sweat breaking out on my forehead as I realized the full extent of what Hannah was saying. Elaine had been plotting to kill me, and she hadn't been acting alone. "Dad, I don't want to lose you," she whispered, her voice so fragile, it broke my heart. "But I had to tell you. You deserve to know. You deserve to be safe." I reached out, pulling her into a hug, my body aching with the effort. But I didn't care. I needed her close. I needed her to know that no matter what, she was the only thing that mattered right now. "I'm so sorry, Hannah," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I'm so sorry you had to hear all of this." She held on to me tightly, her sobs muffled against my chest. "I didn't want to hear it, Dad. I just wanted everything to be normal again. I wanted you and Mom to be happy." "I know, sweetheart." "I know," I said, rubbing her back gently. "But we'll get through this. I promise." And in that moment, I realized that I was no longer just fighting for myself. I was fighting for Hannah, for the life we had, for the family we were supposed to be. I had no idea what Elaine had planned next, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her destroy everything. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I looked at Hannah, trying to gather my strength. "We need to go to the police. We need to show them everything. The car, the phone call, everything. We can't let her get away with this." Hannah nodded, her face streaked with tears, but a look of determination in her eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes, Dad. We'll stop her." I squeezed her hand, feeling the weight of what was ahead of us. But for the first time in days, I felt like I had a plan, a way to fight back. And I was going to fight. For myself, for Hannah, and for the life I'd nearly lost. The days after Hannah's confession were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight, not with the weight of everything hanging over me. But one thing became clear. I couldn't sit back and wait for Elaine to finish what she'd started. I had to act. Mick and I had stayed up late, going over the details, talking through every possible step. We needed evidence, something concrete that would tie Elaine and Ronan Pike to the crash, to the scheme she had planned. If I was going to expose her, I had to be careful, and I had to be smart. It was the only way to get justice. Mick wasn't exactly thrilled about getting involved in something this deep, but he didn't hesitate when I asked for his help. He'd always had my back, even when things got messy. "All right," Mick said one evening as we sat in the back of the shop, sipping coffee, a stack of papers between us. "We're not going to just sit around waiting for this to blow up. If we're going to get her, we need to get our hands on the car. I've got a guy who works at the impound lot. We can get in, grab the evidence, and get out before anyone knows we were there." I nodded, my fingers tapping the table. "The car, the one she tried to kill me in. That's where the proof is. The brakes. They've got to show the tampering. If we can show she messed with them, it's game over." Mick rubbed his chin, looking like he was mentally going over the plan in his head. "I'll get the paperwork sorted. You focus on the rest. I'll make sure we've got a solid story when we walk in. We can't afford to slip up." I knew Mick had experience with these kinds of things. He was always the go-to guy for things that required finesse. If anyone could get in and out of an impound lot without raising alarms, it was Mick. I had to trust him. The next day, we put our plan into motion. Mick set things up with his contact at the impound lot, while I focused on gathering the rest of the evidence. I spent hours at the house, going through Elaine's things. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I felt like there had to be something. A slip of paper, a receipt, a hidden message, some sort of clue that would confirm what I already knew. I found it when I went through Elaine's phone, which she'd left unlocked on the kitchen counter. It wasn't much, just a few messages between her and Ronan talking about meeting up after the job was done. They were careful not to say anything too explicit, but the meaning was clear enough. Elaine had planned the crash, and Ronan had been involved every step of the way. There was no doubt left in my mind. The messages were the final piece of the puzzle. That evening, Mick and I met up at the shop to finalize the next phase of the plan. We didn't have much time. I knew Elaine was out of the hospital by now, recovering at home, but the longer we waited, the harder it would be to make our move. We needed to strike fast. "I'll get the car," Mick said, standing up from the table. "You get the story in place. And after we're done, we make sure the cops are ready. We're going to make sure we've got everything on record." I looked at him, my mind racing with all the possibilities. There was no going back now. "Let's do it," I said, my voice steady but filled with determination. Mick nodded, then hesitated. "And Caleb, after this, things will change. You'll be free. But you're going to have to be ready. She won't go down without a fight." I didn't answer. What could I say? I was ready to fight. I had to be. Later that night, Mick and I stood outside the impound lot, under the cover of darkness. The moon hung high in the sky, casting long shadows over the lot. Mick's contact had left the gate unlocked, just as we'd planned. We slipped through quietly, our footsteps muffled on the gravel, as we made our way to the spot where Elaine's car had been stored. The car sat there, still and lifeless, just as I had left it. I could see the faint scratches where the tires had slid, the marks of the crash still visible on the body. But it wasn't the outside of the car that mattered. It was what was underneath. "Here it is," Mick whispered, pulling open the driver's side door. "Let's make this quick." I nodded, stepping in beside him. We didn't waste time. Mick grabbed the tools we'd need to pop open the brake system, and within minutes we were inside, checking the lines. The cuts were clean, expertly done, and there was no doubt in my mind. Someone had intentionally sabotaged the brakes. Someone wanted me dead. "Got it," Mick said, his voice low as he snapped a few pictures of the damage. "This is solid. We've got what we need." I breathed out a sigh of relief, though I knew this was just the beginning. We still had to get the cops involved, and I wasn't sure how Elaine would react when she found out we had everything. I had a feeling she wasn't going to go down easily. "Let's get out of here," I said, pulling the door shut behind me. "We'll call the cops from the car." As we left the impound lot, the weight of everything still hung over me. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, but there was a gnawing doubt in the pit of my stomach. What if Elaine had more tricks up her sleeve? What if she had someone watching us, waiting for us to make a move? I wasn't sure. But one thing was certain. It was time to put an end to the lies. We were going to bring her down. And we were going to do it by the book. The days after Mick and I gathered the evidence felt like a strange, tense calm before a storm. And we had everything we needed. The brake lines, the pictures, the phone messages, all of it. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. Mick had made sure everything was set up with Sheriff Daniels. We had an ally in him. Someone who had been with the department long enough to know how things worked, even if they weren't always by the book. He'd agreed to meet us, review the evidence, and help us make sure we had the police behind us when we moved forward. But Elaine had no idea what was coming. She was recovering at home, probably assuming everything had gone according to her plan. She probably thought that after the accident, I'd be out of the picture for good. Another notch in her belt, another victory. She had no idea that I was about to flip the script. Mick and I stood by the ranger cabin on the outskirts of town, the wind whipping through the trees around us. We had set the trap. Mick had spread the word that I was holed up there, waiting for Elaine to make her move. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to do. "I'm not a fan of this," Mick said, checking his watch and looking out at the cabin's front door. "This is a huge gamble, Caleb. You're putting yourself right in the line of fire." "I don't have a choice," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline buzzing through my veins. "We do this now, and we do it right. Elaine's not just going to give up. She's going to try to cover her tracks, but she won't get away with it, not this time." Mick didn't say anything for a moment, then sighed, pulling a set of keys from his pocket. "All right, man, just stay sharp. And if things go south, don't hesitate. I'll be there." "I know," I said, nodding. "You've got my back." I watched Mick head toward the truck, where he'd set up a backup plan. The sheriff was already en route, and we'd arranged for backup units to be close by, waiting for the signal. I just had to get Elaine and Ronan to walk into the trap. The minutes felt like hours as I paced inside the cabin, looking out through the small window, scanning the road. The plan was simple. Elaine and Ronan would arrive, thinking they were going to finish the job. I'd confront them, and with the sheriff and his team hidden nearby, we'd take them down. I wasn't nervous. I was angry. I was sick of all the lies, sick of the way Elaine had manipulated everyone, including me. I was sick of letting her run the show. Now, it was time to take control. Finally, I heard the sound of an engine approaching, the gravel crunching beneath the tires. My heart skipped a beat as I stepped to the window, seeing the familiar shape of a black car pulling up to the front. I knew who it was before I saw the faces, Ronan Pike and Elaine. I braced myself, trying to steady my breath. This was it. The car came to a stop, and I saw Elaine get out, her movements slow, deliberate. Ronan followed her, his posture tense, looking around like he was expecting trouble. He didn't see me yet. I could hear Elaine laughing, her voice drifting on the wind. "Just stick to the plan, Ronan," she said, her tone sweet and low. "We'll take care of this, just like we talked about. Caleb won't know what hit him." Ronan chuckled darkly, then muttered something I couldn't make out. I clenched my fists, feeling the rush of anger flood my chest. This was it. I stepped outside, walking slowly but steadily toward them, my eyes locked on Elaine. Ronan turned, his eyes narrowing when he saw me, but I didn't flinch. "Elaine," I said, my voice clear and cold, "I know what you've been doing, and I know about Ronan." Her eyes widened, but the shock was only fleeting. She recovered quickly, putting on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Caleb, what are you doing here?" she asked, as if she was surprised to see me standing there. "I told you, we need to talk, but not here." "Oh, we're talking," I said, stepping closer. "We're talking right now, about everything you've done, about the crash, about you trying to kill me." Ronan stepped forward, his body tense, his hand twitching as if he was ready to make a move. "You don't know what you're talking about, man," he said, his voice low. "Just back off." I didn't back off. "I know everything. I know you two were planning this from the start. I know the brakes were cut, and I know you were hoping to walk away with everything." Elaine's face faltered for a second, her composure cracking. "You don't understand," she said, her voice wavering. "I wasn't trying to hurt you, Caleb. I didn't want this." "Then why did you do it?" I demanded. "Why did you lie? Why did you put me and Hannah through all of this?" Elaine started, her eyes darting around. She was searching for an escape, but there was nowhere to go. I could see the truth in her eyes. She had nowhere left to hide. But before she could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed behind me, and I turned to see Sheriff Daniels and his team emerging from the trees, their guns drawn and their expressions hard. "Elaine, Ronan Pike," Sheriff Daniels called, his voice steady. "You're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and tampering with evidence." Ronan's eyes widened as he glanced at Elaine. The fight left him, but not entirely. He took one step back, his hands raised, trying to process the situation. "You're finished," I said to Elaine, my voice steady, but filled with the weight of everything I had been through. "I'm done being your fool." Elaine's face twisted with a mixture of anger and disbelief. She glanced at Ronan, then back at me, her mouth opening and closing, as if she couldn't find the words. "Take them away," Sheriff Daniels said, his voice calm but firm, as the deputies moved in to arrest Elaine and Ronan. As they were led to the police cars, Elaine didn't say a word. Ronan, on the other hand, muttered something under his breath, a curse, no doubt, aimed at me, but it didn't matter anymore. They were going to pay for what they'd done. I watched as the cars drove off, the dust settling around me. Mick came up beside me, his face hard but satisfied. "You did it, man. They're done." "Yeah," I said, exhaling slowly, my heart still pounding in my chest. "But it's not over yet. We've got a long road ahead." I looked at the sheriff, who gave me a small nod. "You're going to be okay, Caleb," Daniels said. "This will all come out in court. We've got the evidence now." I nodded, but the relief didn't fully hit me yet. I was still processing everything, the lies, the betrayal, the near-death experience, and the truth was, things would never be the same. But in this moment, I knew one thing for sure. I had taken back control of my life. And that was something no one could ever take from me. 6 months had passed since that night at the ranger cabin. 6 months of court hearings, paperwork, and the slow crawl toward justice. Elaine and Ronan were both in prison, awaiting their sentences. The truth was out in the open, but the aftermath had been anything but easy. For the longest time, it felt like I was walking through a fog, unsure of where I was heading. But today, as I stood in the middle of Rose Cycles, the shop I had built from the ground up, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Peace. The place had grown since the last time I'd truly been able to focus on it. We had new bikes lined up in the showroom, the workstations humming with activity, the smell of fresh paint and motor oil filling the air. Mick was in the back, working on a new project with one of the guys, and the place was busier than ever. Hannah stood beside me, her expression one of pride as she looked over the shop. The business had become more than just a way to make money. It had become something solid, something we both could build our future on. It was something we could finally be proud of again. "I can't believe how much it's grown, Dad," she said, glancing around. She was standing a little taller these days, more confident than I had ever seen her. "You really did it. You turned this place into something." I smiled at her, feeling a knot in my throat. "We did it, kiddo. All the late nights, all the hard work. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it." She raised an eyebrow and leaned in, dropping her voice as if sharing a secret. "I still think you should let me handle the books. I'm getting good at this stuff." I laughed. "You're not ready to take over yet, but I'm not ruling it out." She grinned, clearly pleased with herself. "Just wait, I'll prove it to you." I looked at her, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a deep sense of hope. We were both moving forward, leaving the past behind. Later that afternoon, I surprised Hannah with something I had been planning for weeks. After everything we'd been through, after all the betrayal and pain, it was time to make things right, to make a new start. "Hannah," I said, pulling her aside, "I've been thinking about how to take things to the next level. Rose Cycles isn't just mine anymore, it's ours." Her eyes widened, clearly unsure of where I was going with this. "Ours?" "Yeah," I said, pulling out a set of official papers from my desk. "I've been working with the lawyer, and I'm making you part owner. This isn't just my dream anymore, it's yours too." Her jaw dropped as she took the papers from my hand, looking at them as if trying to process what I had just said. "Wait, are you serious? You want me to take over?" "I want you to be a partner, Hannah. This business is ours now. You've worked just as hard as I have, and you've shown me what it means to really keep this place alive. I couldn't do it without you." She blinked, her eyes filling with emotion. "Dad, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. I'm proud of you, kid. I know this place is in good hands with you." She smiled, the weight of the moment settling in. "Rowe and Daughter Customs," she said quietly, reading the name off the papers. "I like the sound of that." I chuckled, feeling a lump form in my throat. "Yeah, me too." As the days went on, things started to settle into a new routine. The business was thriving. We were making bigger orders, taking on more projects, and expanding our team. But more than anything, I was finally at peace with myself. I wasn't just rebuilding a business. I was rebuilding my life, my relationship with Hannah, and the future we'd both dreamed of. At night, when the shop was closed and the lights were dimmed, I'd sit at the desk, going over plans for new bikes and thinking about how far we'd come. I thought about Elaine and what she had done, about the pain she'd caused. But as much as it hurt, I knew I couldn't let it define me. I couldn't let it define us. One evening, after locking up the shop, I stepped outside and looked up at the stars. I could see the city in the distance, the lights blinking in the dark. It was beautiful, but it didn't compare to what I had right here. I had my daughter, I had Rowe and Daughter Customs, and I had a future that was mine to shape. Hannah came up beside me, standing silently at my side. She didn't say anything at first, but I could feel the comfort of her presence, knowing that we were in this together. "Dad," she said after a long silence, "do you think Mom will ever come back?" I turned to her, my heart twisting. I knew the question was coming, but I wasn't sure how to answer. Elaine had left after everything went down, disappearing without a word. I didn't know where she had gone, and part of me didn't want to know. "I don't know, sweetheart," I said softly, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. "But what I do know is that we've got each other, and that's enough." Hannah nodded, her face softening. "Yeah, we'll be okay." "We will," I said, wrapping my arm around her shoulders as we stood together under the stars. We'll always be okay.